Okay, at this point, a lot of you might be wondering that is, you got the example, you followed through, but you're saying, what was bad about that argument? Sounded like a good one. In fact, perhaps it sounded like something that you've heard from your sociology, anthropology, political science, some other social science um, class. You hear that things like that all the time. You heard it in high school, etc. What was bad about the argument? What happened? We considered the statement the Earth is not flat. Well, the Earth is not flat. I mean, the truth, it can be determined that that one's either true or false. In fact, we all know very well that the Earth is not flat. Maybe way back in ancient times, people thought that the Earth was not flat, but everybody knows there's no question about it. That is the way the world is. We have pictures from space. We know all about that. But we were trying to consider moral statements. I mean, the first one you might say is a factual statement. The second one is a moral statement. Female genital mutilation is morally wrong. I mean, and the argument was, look, there's no disagreement, there's no dispute about whether A is true, whether the Earth is flat or not. But there's a lot of disagreement about female genital mutilation. And we can just roll back one slide a second. And we saw the argument that if there's some disagreement about the truth of, or there's a lot of disagreement about truth of a certain kind of statement, these statements are not true or false. There is disagreement about whether moral statements, like B, is true or false. Therefore, moral statements are not true or false. So you're saying, gee, I don't get the bad part of the argument. Well, I'm going to make it clear through a little example, but let me jump over to it. Here's a third example of a statement. Legum can break the board with his bare hands. Now you're saying, what board are you talking about? Well, you'll see the board that I'm talking about. It's a piece of wood, a board, hard board. When I say break it with my bare hand, I'm talking about this hand. You'll see a little bit more when I get the video with the board in my hand, but you'll understand where I'm going with it. But now I want to stop for a second. I want you to stop and think. You might have to stop the video, in a couple seconds after I explain. Now, when I do this in class, I usually ask the students. We take a poll right at this point in the class. Do you think that statement number C, Legum can break the board with his bare hand, is true? And usually, people look at me, they say, gee, he's getting on in years, he's not as young as he used to be. And some of them say, gee, he was in the military. And then I tell them, oh, but wait a second, in the Army, they taught us how to break things with rifles and with bullets, not with our bare hands. I wasn't even trained in hand-to-hand combat in the Army. And you're wondering, can he do it? Then people want to ask questions. I said, no. We don't need any questions asked. Right now, let's see, take a vote. And, it used to start when I first started at Kingsborough, teaching at Kingsborough, we'd get, large percentage thought the statement was true. A whole bunch thought the statement was not true. And there was some, so there's controversy, and that's why I want you to think about it. Do you think me, this guy over here, actually, the video might have been taken a little while ago, a couple of years ago, so don't worry about that. The one that you're about to see after this one. And the question is, can he break the board with his bare hand? That is this hand. What board? Well, you'll see in a second. If you can't make your decision now, wait until you see the next little clip, and based on that, you can decide whether you think it's true or false. But let me just say, I've done this in many contexts, and we get division. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, that there's substantial disagreement about number C, or statement C. Legum can break the board with his bare hands. Just so everybody understands. Can doesn't mean I could train for 22 years. I could go from my 98-pound weakling or my overweight where I am weakling position and do it and be trained to do it. It's right now, this physical person, do they have the ability? So if I didn't break it on the first try, but I slammed my hand against the board, it would still. But you might want to watch a little bit more to look at the board, see what I'm talking about, and then stop the video and put your vote down there. Okay, so that's where we stand. I'll be back with you in a second.